Before being ordained into UU ministry, we needed to complete an internship year in a congregation so that we had real-life parish ministry experience on top of a seminary education. My internship was at the Berkeley Church, which sits high on a hill looking out over the San Francisco Bay. And when it is clear, which happens occasionally, one has a wonderful view of the bay, the surrounding cities, and the Golden Gate Bridge. If you were to look with binoculars, you might see the crew that is currently painting the bridge. The tending of it never stops. They paint from one end to the other, and when they are finished, it is time to start back on the other side. The bridges that we want to maintain may need similar care and attention. The bridges that connect us to other people, the bridges to curiosity and hope and courage. Without some attention, those bridges may fall into disrepair and be harder for us to use. Without them, we may be stuck on islands of fear, cynicism, and judgment. Without tending to the metaphorical bridges that connect us with other people, we may find that we are believing what Thich Nhat Hanh called the illusion of separateness. And at times, letting a bridge fall apart or even choosing to block it may be necessary. If a person's behavior has been harmful and they show little or no remorse or interest in changing, then creating a boundary can become necessary, even as that may be difficult or painful to do. We don't have to maintain all the bridges in our lives, and hopefully, when it is a bridge that connects us with another person, we share in its upkeep.
When you're weary, feeling small, when tears are in your eyes, I'll dry them all. I'm on your side. Oh, when times get rough and friends just can't be found, like a bridge over troubled waters, I will lay me down. Like a bridge over troubled water, I will lay me down. Paul Simon wrote these words and recorded the song with Art Garfunkel in 1970, and they continue to move so many. Thank you so much for that incredible rendition of this piece. The way the chords and the melody so thoroughly support the angst, the fear, the worry, the hardship, the sorrow that is so present in this song, and just as thoroughly the support of compassion and hope present in the chorus. I will lay me down. Now, of course, there's a way to interpret this song that would have that person sound codependent or like a martyr, because music can be interpreted, I will lay me down. But that's not what I cherish about this song. That's not how I hear this song. Simon says that when you are at your most vulnerable, I will be with you in that hard place, and when you are ready, I offer a way for you to travel to another place. I'm not trying to change the place you're in. I'm simply acknowledging that you are in this place. And when you're ready, I will lay me down, that you might travel to another. Last week, we talked about land masses being connected by bridges, typically over water. And when we are in the thick of vulnerability, overwhelm, shame, it can be so hard to even remember that there was a time when we were not suffering, that there is another place we can be at some point where we regain our bearings and breathe again and find some peace or acceptance or maybe even joy. Who have been the bridges in your life when you've been down and out? I can think of people, those beloveds who have laid themselves down like a bridge until I could find my way again. I too can think of times when I've been the bridge, or at least offered to be, because sometimes that itself is enough. How might we be bridges for and with one another? James Taylor had his own version of acknowledging the ups and downs of life, and he includes the heartache of when we no longer have that cherished bridge, that friend we can call upon when we need help. Won't you look down upon me, Jesus? You've got to help me make a stand. You've just got to see me through another day. My body's aching and my time is at hand, and I won't make it any other way. Oh, I've seen fire and I have seen rain. I've seen sunny days that I thought would never end. And I've seen lonely times when I could not find a friend. But I always thought that I'd see you again. There have been so many losses these past few years, so many losses over a life well lived. Some friendships in our lives change over time. We are more connected or less connected. We live, we love, sometimes we lose. We build bridges. We burn bridges. We humans and our emotions and our egos and our needs can be so complicated sometimes. And still we strive to build families, congregations, communities, and nations. We want to belong. And we mess up. So much has changed or been unmoored or untethered in the last few years. Just going back to the way things were doesn't really work with everything, and yet we still want a sense of belonging, of connection. That's why it's so important we come to church, to this society, to this congregation, to this place, to create a sense of belonging and connection together.
We are in this liminal time, this space where what was in the before times may not be what's needed in the near future. And here we are in the space, building a bridge as we go. The structure of congregational life changes over time. The way that people do church continues to evolve. Much like the ebb and flow of the tides and the moon, congregational life changes. And while we're here building bridges to an emergent future, we can fall into fear, cynicism, and judgment. Generally, those voices don't help things get better. They don't help us build bridges. And on any given day, we all might experience the voices of judgment, cynicism, or fear, or be the source of those voices ourselves. But there are some things that we can do to help. We can quiet the voice of judgment when we respond to what is real and unhook from the expectations and the shoulds, whether the shoulds are our own or somebody else's. You should, they should. We can also lean into the complexity of what really is, because rarely are things simple. Almost always, things are a both and rather than an either or. The voice of cynicism can be quieted when we lean into trust and vulnerability, and when we lead and communicate with tender-heartedness rather than passive-aggressive snark or anonymous comments. I know that there are times when passive-aggressive snark is exactly what is in my head, and I really try to not have it come out of my mouth. The voice of fear can be quieted by recognizing the opportunities to learn when we make mistakes or when we fail. to release the need to have control and to open to the Spirit of the holy, the Spirit of life, to human goodness and to love. One of my favorite stories from the Hebrew Scriptures has a lot of the voices of fear and judgment and cynicism. The story goes that God asked Jonah to travel to the city of Nineveh to teach the people there and to call them back from some of their harmful ways. But the voice of cynicism inside of Jonah's head was saying, the people of Nineveh don't want to hear from me. And the voice of fear was saying, they will make fun of me if I go there. And the voice of judgment was saying, I shouldn't be asked to do this, and there is no way I am going. So Jonah got onto a ship going the opposite direction of Nineveh. Well, it wasn't long before a huge storm arose, and the ship was being blown by the wind and tossed about on the waves, and the crew and passengers were afraid that the ship would sink. And then Jonah told them that maybe, just maybe, he was the cause of the storm, that maybe God was angry with him and was creating the wind and the rain. Jonah asked the crew members to throw him overboard to save all the passengers. Now, I'm not sure that that's really how God works, but that's how the story goes. And then the story says that when Jonah was overboard, the storm stopped. And that a huge fish, or a whale in some versions, swallowed Jonah whole. And there he was, sitting in the belly of the huge fish for several days, with the voices of fear, cynicism, and judgment. I bet there was some wrestling going on in there. I bet there was a little snark. And then his mind and heart shifted, and he gave the idea a second chance, and he asked for a second chance for himself. He stopped feeling so afraid, so cynical, and so judgmental, and then new possibilities opened. The big fish swam to Nineveh and spit him out right there on the shore. Lots of possibilities. The story goes on from there, but we'll save that for another day. This morning, we remember that the Universalist side of our heritage and theology teaches us that we are all bigger than our worst mistake. We are all more than our biggest fears, than our biggest moments of cynicism and judgment, and that forgiveness and second chances are possible. Being able to quiet those voices can allow us to follow a bridge to courage, to hope, to compassion, to a second chance. See if you notice when those voices come up in you or in others, and invite people or yourself to practice those things that can quiet the fear and cynicism and judgment that can so easily arise. This week will be the summer solstice, the first official day of summer. Whether summer brings changes for you with different schedules or activities, outdoor adventures, or the chance to visit with friends and family, or if your routine remains pretty much the same, but with different weather, we'll be crossing that bridge from spring into summer this week. Do you have a favorite bridge? If you do, bring that one to mind. If you don't, just make one up. And then imagine that you're about to move across it. On one side of the bridge is the last few days of spring, and on the other side of the bridge is summer. When we move into summer, what would you like to bring with you? Which qualities or practices would you like to have with you this summer? What might you choose to set down? As the solstice comes and you move across the bridge into summer, we hope you bring curiosity with you. The curiosity that made an artist ask, where do we come from? What are we? Where are we going? And a poet to ask, what is it you plan to do with your one wild and precious life? May you have a lovely Father's Day, a powerful Juneteenth, an amazing General Assembly if you are participating, and a beautiful, connective summer. Blessed be, and amen.